This program brought to you by ACS. Think ahead, create the future, change the world. This is Swipe on Your Money.
Hello, I'm James Daggar-Nickson and welcome to Swipe, the show designed to keep you up to date with all the latest and greatest trends and products in tech. Coming up.
It made sense for us to establish our technology hub in Sydney, build closer connections with our partners in financial services, in retail and in government, and really leverage Australia as an innovation centre.
Mastercard pushing to become the next big thing in tech, launching a global tech hub in Sydney this week, the first of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. Plus, we speak to one of Forbes 30 under 30 for her insights as to why AI should reflect human diversity. But first, if you're looking for a lightweight laptop and a tablet just simply isn't your style, then we have some good news for you. There are quite a few options on the market and they're not as expensive as you might think. National Tech Editor at News Corp, Jen Dudley-Nicholson, I'm pleased to say, joins us now from Brisbane. Is it an age-old issue, this, Jen, trying to find, I suppose, the middle ground between a tablet and one of those heavy, cumbersome laptops?
It's a really tricky one. I mean, if you pick the wrong laptop, potentially you could, end up at the physiotherapist, because some of these laptops are so heavy that if you take them on a plane with you, it's likely to be the only thing you take on the plane with you, because they're pretty much your entire hand luggage. And I've certainly come across that. But it needn't be that way, and some of the new ones are very travel friendly, they're very lightweight, and they really sort of answer that question sort of between, do I get a tablet or do I get a laptop? Because when they weigh the same, it's an easy decision to make.
Why? Why do you think going with the lightweight laptop is a better option than the tablet?
Well, I think for some people, you need to plug things into these sorts of devices.
Yeah.
And with a tablet, even though some people can get away with it, like sometimes I've managed to get away with it, you can't actually sort of plug in an external drive. You can't, plug in a USB stick, for example. It's sort of a bit limiting in that way.
So talk us through Apple. They've just released their latest MacBook Air just a couple of weeks ago. How does it shape up?
It is adorable. So this is the new MacBook. It's not necessarily a reason why you'd purchase it, but it certainly does help. So they're calling this gold, even though it's clearly rose gold, and I'm going to call it right now, it's pink. But there's some really nice things about it. It's still incredibly lightweight. Like, this is the laptop, essentially, that Apple revealed, Steve Jobs revealed, in fact, out of an envelope. So this time it's thinner, it's lighter, it's about less than 2 centimetres thin, which is ridiculous, but in the best possible way. And they've added some nice features to it. So one of those is a retina screen, so it's much easier to look at this time. The screen borders are thinner, it's got a much bigger trackpad so that you can work your way around it quite easily. And one really nice addition too is something that they've borrowed from the MacBook Pros and originally from different smartphones, and that is a fingerprint sensor. So you can touch it and instantly you're in, and you can also use that to sort of verify yourself instead of a password when you're purchasing things online right before Christmas, which is quite handy.
The big question, obviously, it often comes down to this question: how much cashola? What is this bad boy going to set you back?
So it's very small, but not necessarily on the pocket. So it starts around the $1,800 mark. It goes up to $2,200. It is a little bit of a chunk of change, but when you look at the price of tablets this year, they cost quite a bit as well.
Are there rivals? I mean, everyone knows Apple, and if you've had MacBook Airs in the past, the previous iterations, people love them. My wife was a massive fan for many, many years. Are there alternatives, though, to the lightweight laptop?
100%. So Apple really sets the trends on some of these things, and then we see a lot of, I don't want to say copycats, but I also do, but people who sort of create very similar devices, and in that sort of mindset, Huawei is about to bring out this model. So this may look very familiar, and if I turn it around, it may look exceedingly familiar. So this is the Huawei, are you ready for this, MateBook. This is the MateBook X Pro.
They're not even trying to disguise it.
Look, why would you? It's a very pretty device, and you'll notice that the keyboard is very similar to one that you've seen as well. And up here in the corner, this is kind of the piece de resistance for me, there is also a fingerprint scanner up here in the corner, which I may have just demonstrated on a slightly different device. But there are some benefits to this one, because as a consumer, look, you don't have to be in charge of copyright laws. This is sort of not your concern. So it's around the same price, but it's got some really powerful specs. The screen actually takes up a much larger space. This is a 13.9-inch screen rather than a 13.3-inch screen, and partly that's because the borders around this thing are just tiny. They've actually had to hide the camera down below because they couldn't put it up the front because the borders are so thin.
Yeah.
It's also really powerful. It's got a big trackpad as well. And if you've always sort of liked the Apple design, but you've wanted it with a Windows machine, this is kind of the ultimate experience then.
Very, very quickly, because I'm almost out of time. If it's all about the cash, if it's all about price, what do you go with? What's the option for you?
So potentially there's something like this. This is the Asus Spin 3, and I'm not going to break this. I'm just letting you know. But one really nice thing about this is that it's not only got a touch screen, but you can flip it right over and sort of create a tablet. So you not only save money, but you don't have to make a decision between a laptop and a tablet with this device.
Nice one. 3 wonderful options, Jen. Great, as always, have you on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen Dudley-Nicholson there. Well, this year alone, companies around the world invested an estimated $57 billion into fintech technology. Keeping up with the rapid growth is a key challenge being addressed at the world's largest FinTech Expo, which is on this week in Singapore. Sky News reporter Annalise Nielsen went along to check it out.
Financial services have come out from behind stuffy bank branch walls and straight into consumers' hands. Or at least that's what these experts are hoping. They're here in Singapore to see how financial institutions can leverage technology to maximum effect.
Welcome to Bangkok, China.
Plenty of Australian startups are jumping on board.
We bring the innovation and Asia brings the scale. And I think you combine those two and we could create really great music together.
But we're still relatively small players on the global fintech stage, which has undergone rapid change.
So we are going through a transformation now. We are in a digital age.
Fintech's also increasingly helping companies meet their compliance and regulatory demands. But the regulators can often butt heads with the innovators.
We should not forget that the old should also exist, because it's true, we need regulation, we need compliance. We cannot always only have innovative ideas, you know, and not looking in this compliance situation. I think the combination of both is actually the power we want to bring to our clients.
Globally, companies have invested an estimated $122 billion into fintech in the last 3 years. That's been fueled by the growth in things like insurance technology as well as blockchain.
Insurtech is new to the game, but there are many companies out here that could be working with an insurance company.
While for Australia, fintech is still largely confined to payments and lendings. If global trends are anything to go by, insurers and regulators will be players soon too. Annalise Nielsen, Sky News in Singapore.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we head to Sydney's new Global Tech Hub. Stay with us.
And now, more Swipe on your money.
Welcome back. Well, when I think of Mastercard, I often think of those priceless commercials of a few years ago, and I think of Visa, which I suspect isn't really what their aim is. What I don't think about, though, is Tech Hub. Well, that is potentially all set to change because the company has launched their new Global Tech Hub in Sydney in a move to drive innovation and move towards a world without cash. The new hub brings together over 550 employees dedicated to using new technologies to design, build and test new payment solutions. Well, for more on it all, I spoke to Mastercard Australasia Division President Richard Wormold. Richard Wormold, really appreciate you joining us today. Big day for Mastercard. You've just launched the Mastercard Global Tech Hub. Now, for the uninitiated, what is it?
So we obviously run a global business. We operate in 210 countries, and we develop software and technologies to help consumers pay, keep their data safe online. And we've had a big operation in Australia for a number of years, but we made the decision about 18 months ago to really scale up our operations in the market here. And so we've now opened what we call a global technology hub there's space for over 1,000 people, and it's one of our top software development centres around the world.
So from a global Mastercard perspective, was there much competition for this global tech hub, and if so, why Sydney?
The reason we chose Sydney is we've had a big presence here for a number of years. It's a great developed market. It's a hotbed of innovation. There's the National FinTech Centre that's opened here. We have great partnerships with banks, retailers and government, and so it made sense for us to establish our technology hub in Sydney, build closer connections with our partners in financial services, in retail and in government, and really leverage Australia as an innovation centre to test ideas that we can then take to other markets around the world.
When people think of tech hubs, they probably think of some of the big tech names like Google and Microsoft. So from Mastercard's perspective, what does it mean, and how does it reflect what's been a pretty big transition for the company over the past few years from what was a pure payments company?
Yeah, so Mastercard's actually only 12 years old as a listed company. And so we're all familiar with Facebook as a social media giant and Google as an internet giant, and Mastercard is a digital payments giant. So we have 2.5 billion cardholder accounts around the world. We process millions and millions of transactions a day, and with that comes the opportunity to partner with the other digital giants and build new services in the online world. I mean, most people came across Mastercard as the badge on the card, but actually that's just a small part of what we do.
Just back to the prize, if you like, of Sydney winning out to get this global tech hub. From your perspective, from Mastercard's perspective, what do you make of the level of innovation here in Australia, here in Sydney, the level of talent?
I think it's really building. There's the FinTech hub that's been operating for a few years here. But Australia's got such a huge opportunity to be a leader in this space. I mean, we've got a great developed market, it's a stable and growing economy, universities are doing great work, and so we think the conditions are right to see Australia become a leader in innovation over the next few years. You know, Singapore and London, Silicon Valley maybe started earlier, but I think there's just such great opportunity here for this to be one of the leading centres around the world.
Innovation over the past number of years has become a big buzzwords, from individuals to companies to governments, but it's one of those, I suppose, sometimes intangible, difficult to really define issues. How do you guys do it? I mean, what does innovation mean? What does innovation look like from a Mastercard perspective?
Well, I'd say it's not just about little startups, first of all. They play a part, but actually what really counts is scale. So the innovations we see that are really interesting are those that have the ability to scale not just nationally but globally. An example of those is the work we've done with Transport for New South Wales. So right now you can use your Mastercard to tap on and tap off onto the ferries. That's a project that we started well over a year ago, and we now have 200 similar operations and projects around the world. And what the transport authorities are telling us is by moving away from the closed-loop Opal cards or Oyster cards to using the cards that are already in circulation or the devices in circulation, that they save hundreds of millions of pounds. And actually it's simpler for consumers. The other thing that happens is by consolidating the data onto a single platform, we can make it easier for customers to get around the city by using different transport modes.
You've mentioned the initiative, the partnership with Transport New South Wales. How big an opportunity for Mastercard is there in that government and enterprise space?
We think it's a huge opportunity, but we're really at the early stages of that. Our partnership with Transport for New South Wales has been running for a couple of years now, and that's been very successful in implementing what we call open loop transport, the ability to use your cards. But we actually have a global program called Smart Cities, where we're partnering with governments around the world to make cities better places to live. And there are 3 areas of focus for us. One is transport, so making it easier to get around cities, and that goes as far as using our data to help with planning decisions, investment decisions. Second area is around tourism, so promoting the cities as destination for overseas tourists, and again we use our data, our network assets for example, to promote Australia as a place to visit, to help the tourism authorities understand where to invest, where not to invest. And our third area is trade. So we see around half of all the transactions that occur in Australia on a daily basis on cards. And where we can actually help drive trade in local areas, then that's great for the economy, it's great for job creation. And so that's why we're really focused on these partnerships.
One of the big issues here in Australia, and something that is, well, an issue right around the world, is the level of underrepresentation of women in STEM and in technology more broadly, particularly from a career perspective. I know it's something that Mastercard is focused on. Just tell us what you're doing in that space.
Well, we start from the basis that diverse teams are just simply better performing, they're higher performing. So diversity of thought, diversity of gender, in all of their forms actually is a great thing. We do work right back into schools. We have a global program called Girls for Tech, where we actually go into schools focused on girls around 8 to 15 and actually engage them on the uses of technology in the workplace, so artificial intelligence, machine learning and so on. And we're trying to do that because we recognise that in technology over the last decade, diversity has been a real issue. And we see it in our business because we can't find enough great new talent coming out of universities to come and join our business. And so that's where we go right back into school and try and encourage girls to stay in technology subjects right the way through, to go to university into technology subjects. We're starting our grad program in Australia this year. In fact, we had an assessment centre only last week. And our business is becoming a lot more diverse. I mean, my leadership team now is 56% female, 44% male, and actually we just have better conversations and the business runs better.
And look, how important is it for, I suppose, big enterprise, big corporates like Mastercard to be leading from the front, to be heavily engaged as opposed to leaving it to government?
I think they do. The workplace is changing so fast that what we see is schools are struggling to keep up with that change. So the things that we were taught from books over the last 200 years are not necessarily the skills that are going to help us in the next century. I mean, there's no way that humans can outcompute a machine in mathematics, but actually working in a cross-functional team, understanding what the right thing to do is, focusing on relationships and opportunities to make society better are areas that machines actually are severely lacking at the moment. So the skills required are changing very rapidly, and I think it's incumbent on all enterprises really to help move the economy forward, build the right skills for the future. And it's actually something that our team love doing. They love getting out there and engaging with kids in schools. They love actually mentoring young graduates coming through, and it's really rewarding as well.
So we're sitting here now in the global tech hub, lots of innovation, lots of technology. As someone personally and from a Mastercard perspective who's on the vanguard, the cutting edge when it comes to what has been a rapid change as far as technology is concerned, what gets you excited? I mean, what are some of the emerging technologies, some of the emerging trends that fascinate you?
There are so many things, it's difficult to know where to start. So some things like Uber's Elevate trial, that they're actually running a trial at the moment in the Southern Hemisphere. But the idea of potentially in the next 3 years being able to get from the city to the airport in 5 minutes is unbelievable. The advent of driverless cars to make our cities move better. The pace of change is so much faster than it was even 10 years ago. This is just an amazing time to be living and working.
Rich Wormold, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure.
All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, one of the world's leading AI experts shares her thoughts on why we need ethical standards for the technology.
We'll be back with more Swipe on Your Money. And now, more Swipe on Your Money.
Welcome back. Well, as many of us are well aware, artificial intelligence is all around us, from our smart assistants, on our phones, home devices, to businesses around the world using the technology to improve efficiency. But it's not how AI is used, it's how it's created. If we don't have diverse data to train AI, the system will learn our biases, even our unconscious ones. Just this year, Amazon scrapped an AI recruiting tool after discovering it was discriminating against women. So what do we need to do to stop these biases from occurring? Your Money's digital editor, Alex Vukovic, sat down with the VP of AI at Sage UK, Kriti Sharma, to find out.
Kriti Sharma, welcome back to Australia. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me again.
So I think it's probably smart to start with some basic definitions. Artificial intelligence is, a trending buzz term. We are starting to hear it more, both in business circles and also increasingly in the world of consumer tech. But from your perspective, what exactly is AI?
I don't think it's anything new. We use it already in our lives every day. For example, when you're searching something on Google and gives you top result, or it predicts the next few words you're going to type, that's all AI in action. On one hand, we do see the self-driving car kind of examples, but we also use it several times every day when you're logging to your social media and it's showing you the right ad or the right article you should read. And really the best way to understand it is AI, artificial intelligence, is machines that are learning human-like skills. For example, being able to translate from one language to the other, or understanding what's in different images, that sort of stuff. And it's really exciting because now we see a lot of these applications everywhere in our lives.
And so you mentioned that excitement there in terms of the application of these technologies. I mean, we do hear, a wide array of sectors sort of experimenting or claiming to be experimenting with these technologies, everything from sort of, investment management and banking to, medical devices and healthcare, and then sort of consumer world and gaming and consumer technology.
Yes.
Which sectors, from your perspective, have really gone gung-ho into this space? Who's doing it well?
I think they're moving away from what used to be areas like advertising and marketing and hedge funds and banking using really good AI to now applications pretty much everywhere. It used to be when companies would use AI technologies to show you the right ad that you should click, or YouTube would recommend the next video, that funny cat gif that you really need to watch, or Amazon making product recommendations. And now we are at a stage where this technology is so easily available that it's everywhere. Like, a lot of the viewers today possibly have Alexa or Google Assistant at home, or Siri on their phones. We're also seeing applications, as you rightly said, in healthcare, where AI is working alongside human doctors, radiologists, helping them reduce their workload and be more efficient. We're seeing it in the education system, in the business world too, in finance, small businesses who I do a lot of work with at Sage. They're really embracing this technology to reduce the amount of time they have to spend doing paperwork and get real insights. And why not create a world where a small business or an entrepreneur has the same luxury as the CEO of a large company?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's that kind of democratization that you're talking about there, and those efficiencies that a lot of small businesses and indeed large businesses are seeing out of this technology. But you also mentioned there that it's sort of shifting in that there are increasingly applications that are sort of altruistic in their aims. It's being applied to social causes, to impact investing. Tell us a little bit about those trends.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of effort going in and investment these days into using AI to solve very difficult problems facing humanity. And I think about, I don't want to look back in time, 2018, and see fundamentally the most important technology of our time was only used to helping people click more ads, right? I'd love for us to look at how we can strengthen healthcare systems, or we can give more entrepreneurial skills to young people, improve personalized education, and indeed even help people at risk of facing abuse and violence using technology.
So clearly you're excited about these case users and the ability for it to be applied in meaningful ways. At the same time, clearly there's criticism starting to emerge in terms of some of the early experimentation in this space. We've seen Amazon back away from its AI-based recruitment process because of findings or allegations of gender bias. We've seen a similar thing with Facebook sort of moving away from its messenger bot. So it seems even the tech giants are not quite getting this right.
I think it's a journey. And what we have learned about technology, specifically AI, is that it can learn biases that humans have. For example, there are some instances where machines have failed to recognize people with black faces and instead started to detect them as gorillas. Now, you would see this is outrageous and absolutely unacceptable, but if you go back to the technical point we talked about, how machines learn, if an algorithm has never been shown what a non-white person looks like, it doesn't know how to solve it. It's not that intelligent. However, the opportunity is to create strong ethical standards where, just the way we had standards in the healthcare industry, in finance, now we have even regulation to a large extent, we should have similar standards on creating AI technology ethically, where it creates the rights, benefits that we need for society and create more equality. Now we have a different generation of people coming in who want to work differently and create new products, new services, and there's a real drive to create ethical technology today. A lot of it could be attributed to recent headlines in the news, but we are at a time where the next generation, the current generation, in fact, we want to create technology that's good for society, not just short-term benefits.
Kriti Sharma, we'd love to have you back next time you're in Australia. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that is Swipe for this week. I'm James Daggar-Nickson. Thanks for watching.
This program brought to you by ACS. Think ahead, create the future, change the world.